Okay, well, my name is Dave Murie. I'm the chair of BCS in Scotland, which I always say sounds a rather grandiose title, but it's really a little bit of an organisation composed with members from the various Scottish branches, just to try and provide linkage between these Scottish branches, some of which are doing very well on their own. Others are in need of a bit of support and even a bit of resurrection just at the moment, which is maybe an appropriate thing to think about as we lead up to the Easter season. What I was asked to say something about today was how could local members contribute to the work of Communities Board of BCS? And I'm sure the first question that everyone would then ask is, what on earth is Communities Board? So I think it would be always in order to just give you a little bit of info about the kind of membership organisation that BCS is. As we all know, all organisations need to have a structure. And the BCS one is actually quite complex, considering it's not the biggest of organisations. We're not simply a club of members with a small administrative executive. You can think of BCS as a conglomerate corporation with two major wings, one of which is covered by charity regulations, which is basically the membership organisation side and is the part of the BCS that members have some awareness of. The second wing is a learning and development organisation, and it's a subsidiary organisation run on purely commercial lines and is less restricted by the charitable considerations. And the hope is, by and large, in good years, that learning and development wing is providing some funding which helps to subsidise the rest of the organisation. On a few years, things do not go so well, and sometimes the monetary transfer will be in the other direction. But basically, we've got a charitable chartered wing, and we've got a commercial wing. And like any conglomerate company, both parts of BCS are run day to day by an executive team, which is based both in Swindon and in London, when they're not on COVID furlough, that is. So we've had all sorts of difficulties, like every other organisation over the last year, with people working from home and only on half-time appointments. A number of these people in London and Swindon support the membership organisation in various ways. Others will support the learning and development wing of BCS. And as will happen with any company, there are overseeing boards of staff to help steer the workings of the organisation and to check that everything is being done as it should be to fulfil regulatory requirements. Remember that we do in BCS have a royal charter, meaning that we give service not solely to our own members. We do provide services, obviously, to our own membership, but we also seek to provide a service for society as a whole. And that's part of what our chartership is about, with our strapline, making IT good for society. And to police all this, to oversee it, to stimulate it, we have 4 boards populated by senior volunteer members. I'll just run through them quickly, although the only one you're really interested in today is the Communities Board. The first one is Organisation and Employers Board. It focuses on IT professionalism and ethics, dealing with knowledge and skills development issues. Then there is the Society Board, which keeps a watching brief on how digital advances and policies, strategies and services impact society as a whole. The third board is called the BCS Academy of Computing Board, and it seeks to influence computing education across the various teaching and research sectors. Lastly, the Communities Board is the one that oversees our membership wing, with a brief to advance professionalism across our membership and to give each one of us appropriate support and guidance, both individually and also within the local or the specialist interest groups that we may belong to. And I do hope that everyone is aware that there are specialist groups that you can join up to as well as your local branch. And I just want to mention a couple of initiatives today run by the Communities Board that are going to touch on our local branch here in Dundee and Fife, Tayside and Fife. The first of these is a new initiative which is, I think, perhaps struggling to really get formed during the COVID situation, but it has already been set up with an executive. I'm sure it is ready to link up with volunteer members and branches. So I'm really keen to keep Tayside at the forefront in getting a linkage with this early careers executive initiative that has been formed. And it's to support all of our colleagues in the IT industry, whether you're a graduate, whether you're an apprentice, whether you're a career changer, or whether you're a student. This is a space to connect you to the wonderful work that goes on in BCS. And we do want to encourage every branch, both local branches and specialist branches, to appoint an early careers representative to its committee in the very near future. Think about it. Without exception, every single member of our institute has had their first day in the IT industry, even our esteemed president. We all know how daunting these early years can be. The Early Careers Executive has been set up with the intention of supporting the future talent of our IT industry, to provide us all with a safe space to help navigate our careers through this exciting industry. And I think part of the emphasis in this is a lot of branches are kind of dominated by people who are more in the senior years of their career. And we're wanting to get some younger blood involved in the work of all branches, whether they're local branches or specialist interest branches. Who is the Early Careers Initiative aimed at? Well, the simple answer from the executive that's starting to run this is it's for anyone who considers themselves to be early in their IT career. And Daniela, I'm sure that includes students as well as young professionals who already started in the industry. Regardless of your route into the industry, whether you're an apprentice, whether you're a graduate, whether you're self-taught, or whether you're a career changer, as long as you describe yourself as early career, you're included. So it could be for some older people that are changing careers as well. Something that may be extremely relevant as we come out of COVID, because there may be quite a shake-up of employment prospects in many industries. This Early Careers Initiative wants to build on the shoulders of the great work that all our colleagues in BCS are doing. And the aim is to bring it all together and shout from the rooftops so that you know what is going on for early careers right at this moment, not only for our own branch, your specialist group, but your industry more widely. Now, personally, I don't know how quickly with the COVID lockdown this is going to get truly going. But here is an opportunity for a younger person to get involved with the local branch, to keep an eye out for people new to the profession, perhaps to help with or help find a bit of mentoring, maybe to help run an occasional event specifically for recent newbies and to encourage them as members of BCS. And once we do start to be able to have local meetings, physical meetings again, it would be an opportunity simply to keep an eye out for these younger professionals and have a chat with them, get to know them, keep them involved in the work of the local branch. I think this would be a great opportunity for a people person. And if you might be that person, or you know someone who might be that person, we want to hear from you, please. Do offer your services to the branch. And although I'm not in a position to give you a specific role description right now, and I think the role description for these people may be largely up to how they want to define it for themselves, but I will be more than happy to put you in contact with the Early Careers Executive, and we can start to make some progress. Now, the other matter that I've been talking to Communities Board people about is the desire for our policy and press team in BCS to expand their fairly small list of subject experts who might be available from time to time to help formulate occasional responses to government consultations or other professional requests for input on behalf of BCS. And also for people who could help respond intelligently and coherently to occasional media requests for knowledgeable, up-to-date and timely comment on contemporary issues relating to technology. Now, these are two kind of different things. The first one about providing consultation advice to government, that's something that many people would be capable of doing if they've got some real knowledge about their particular subject area and how it might impact government policy. There's a recent digital strategy that has been reissued for the Scottish Government, and I'm glad to say that BCS did provide some concerted input to that around about Christmas time. From time to time, these consultations arise, and it would be helpful to the people in Swindon who manage this to get one or two more people, particularly in Scotland, who could provide support. That's not particularly urgent support. It's a case where you may have 3 weeks or a month to help the team in Swindon provide a concerted response. The one to do with media relations is somewhat different. What typically will happen is that a request will come into BCS, and BCS needs to find someone who can respond quickly to that request for input. Typically, they are looking for someone that can get back to them within an hour and say, yes, I will provide some material, maybe by the end of the day. It might not be quite as urgent as that, but typically these requests are things that need some urgent response to. And it's to help give the BCS HQ team more ammunition to help field that team of expertise that they work with. I think they will be particularly keen to have people in Scotland because obviously some of these are local press issues. I'm always keen that expertise is provided wherever it is needed. So it doesn't necessarily need to be Scottish expertise to answer a Scottish media query. But if there's the Scottish expertise available, I think so much the better. So the challenge that I personally have been putting out to our Scottish branches is this. Please try to find 2 names that I can put forward to that team so that we can add them as subject experts to the team our public relations people are working with. With 3 universities in our branch area and lots of enterprising organisations, I think that shouldn't be too difficult to find. You may find it's not a particularly onerous role. It's the sort of thing that may come up in a blue moon. If you're putting yourself forward as a media relations person and a couple of requests come in and you're not able to respond in quick time, I think you may find that you tend not to be called on. But it would be good if we can get this working. So I'm keen that we do provide 2 names from Tayside and Fife if possible. And again, if I get the names and contact details, I'll be very happy to link you up with our public relations team at BCS. So I think these are the comments that I wanted to make. It's really good to see people tying into a local branch like this, and it's over to you. Back to you, Alan.
Right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for David from the rest of the meeting? Or in fact, want to volunteer right away? Okay, fair enough. Well, I think we've had a nice description of what David's looking for. And if you do feel at any stage, having reflected on this, that you could help, please get in touch. Now, I see we've now been joined by our branch chair, John Keil. John, we just explain we popped David's presentation on first, and we're looking forward to your comments on how COVID has changed your working life. I know my old employer in the offshore oil industry has made a great deal of transfer to at-home working, where people never actually meet in the office. And that has, over the year, that has been recognised as really quite industry leading. In fact, it's so industry leading that they've decided, as they never seem to ever need to meet, they're going to transfer the support guys to the cheapest conceivable country. So, you know, and lo and behold, some redundancies are being made, and people are being offered transfer to Kuala Lumpur and stuff like that. But you know, it's so you want to make your working from home work to a certain extent, but not 100%. Bear in mind that you could be signing your own redundancy settlement there. Anyway, John, you have your own comments, I'm sure. Over to you, John.
Okay, thank you very much. My sincere apologies for being late. I had a few technical problems, as ever. My name's John Keil. I work for the Student Loans Company. I'm employed there as a business systems analyst. I work for Atos Syntel, which is an Indian company. So I work with quite a lot of offshore people at the same time. One of the things I'm very interested in is bringing into our meetings and our presentations a business perspective of how IT is used. There's lots of interesting things about the technology itself, but quite often, you know, what we see is removed from the way it's being used in industry and in business at the moment. So I've got some ideas about presentations that align IT with, you know, business practice. And I would very much like your contribution to that. So if you've got some ideas about, you know, some people who are using IT as a manager, you know, a good example is RPA, you know, robotics, and particularly managers having to manage contractors, for example. So contractors have to have their ID badges regularly updated, and there's the associated documentation that goes with that. So, for example, some organizations have set up RPA to actually do that for them. They just click a button and they fill in some key information, and the documents are generated. But those are just some examples of that. Yes, I think that really, I don't want to ramble on too much, but it's very much about the practical side of computing. And again, to pick up from David Murie's perspective as well, is to bring some more youngsters in as well. You know, one of the challenges we had was when we were at Abertay, we saw lots of students who were sitting in the room opposite who could have been coming into our meetings, and I'm sure would have found it interesting. But again, we found that there was this Chinese wall between, you know, our meetings and their meetings, and I'm hoping that, you know, we can bring in some more youngsters and fresh blood. Not that we need fresh blood, but it would be good to bring in some more people with other ideas. So that's my thoughts, as it were. So thanks, Alan. Back to you.
Thanks, John. I wonder if we could approach individual members on the meeting and just ask them to describe how their working patterns have been changed in the last year, presumably in reaction to COVID. Ali, no trade secrets, but could you give us a short description of how you're finding your work has changed?
Sure, we were actually, the team that I'm part of was actually already set up for remote working. So just basically as soon as the Scottish Government turned around and said, you know, everybody who can work from home, that was it. We basically worked from home, simple as that. In practical terms, there are a few tasks that we have to go into the office to carry out, but for the most part, it's all just standard remote working.
Did you find there was anyone in your group was challenged location-wise? You know, somebody up in somewhere with rotten internet or something like that, or were most of your folk actually, or you know, located in reasonable places?
Well, we're spread across the country. We're a fairly small part of IT, but yes, some people have had the odd challenge that I'm aware of. But we've had a couple of sort of like the standard Vodafone little devices to kind of supplement people's internet if required. But yes, we've got a couple of people that live a little bit countryside, rural areas, and doesn't make it easiest for some of the video calls, but everybody manages to basically muddle through.
Ali, thanks very much for that description. Chris, can I ask you to unmute yourself and maybe just describe what you're working, how your working arrangements have changed in the last year?
Sure. So dramatically, I work as a portfolio general practitioner. So overnight, we started to phone people rather than see them in person. Without dwelling on that too much, I'll more mention my informatics role as I work with NSS, one of the national health boards, on a 0-hour contract, providing some informatics support for primary care. Some of the work that the working group I lead were involved in assisted with identifying people who are shielding, for example, or now clinically extremely vulnerable. So massive change. All of the meetings that used to be in person are usually through Teams. In addition to that massive shift, there has been, I would say, a different demand in terms of work-life balance. Obviously, everybody is both working from home and also locked down. So the getting that balance right is obviously challenging for people. I shall do a shameless plug now that I'm going to be presenting some work for I think it's the primary care BCS group for Scotland in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll share the link there. But enormous changes like you'll all have had.
Chris, thanks very much for that update. Please be sure to send me the link to that meeting and the details of the meeting, and I will publicise it locally as well. And I think the BCS Primary Care Group will probably be quite expert at publicising it themselves, but every little helps. Thanks so much for that, and thanks. Daniela, can I ask you to unmute yourself and just describe anything that's changed for you in the last year?
Well, I'm still in my third year of university, and I started doing an internship, a full year work-based learning in January. So I'm just entering the workforce, and it's been really, really interesting doing it all remotely. I've never actually been at work in the office, and it's been really interesting doing it all over on Zoom at home. Yeah, definitely a different experience.
Some people say that it's the new starts that find working from home difficult because there's not the opportunity to build up teamwork.
Well, yeah, we work with Zoom, I guess. We always have a meeting, like we always have a catch up once a day, so we make sure everyone's in the same kind of position. But it is quite hard because there's definitely less support than it would have been if that was all physically and we were all together. Yeah, but trying to cope with that. So that's been quite hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. Well, best of luck in that.
thank you.
Rashidat, would you care to unmute yourself and tell us a bit how you found the last year?
Yeah, hi. Over the year, the last year regarding the remote working is quite challenging for myself because I had to combine it with teaching my kids as well. Although I'm a bit relieved that they're back to school. So working from home is quite challenging. But right now, most times I get to meet my work teammates through using Teams, and it's quite good. So we kind of have our regular meetings and updates and learning through that. And most of our meetings are done by WebEx, and it's quite good. So aside from that, I think it's quite, right now, I think I'm used to it now, but at the beginning it was quite challenging, but it's fine altogether. Everything looks fine now.
My daughter, her yesterday was the first day she had an empty house since Christmas Eve with the school, both her children back at school. So we realize what a tough job that being a parent is, and you're never going to get anything right first time. But wow, you know, that's a real challenge. Well done.
Yeah,
Thanks for your report.
Yeah, thank you.
Roy, would you care to unmute yourself and tell us a little about how things have changed for you in the last year?
Sure. Very much like Rashidat, we've got 2 children that we've had to homeschool for a bit. So, notwithstanding any work challenges, that's been quite a challenge in itself. I don't know whether the children found it more challenging than we did, but I'm glad they're back, and so is my wife. Yeah, we've got a team that are operations based. So while I've been working from home, my father-in-law is staying with us just now because of his physical. Once the bubble was increased by Scottish Government last year, we moved them in here. So we've had to shield for a bit, so it's pretty limited my exposure to the office. Hopefully with the vaccination programme we'll get there soon. So yeah, I've been pretty much based at home, but the team are in work. We've got a blended approach, so we'll work from home on a rotated basis. The workload doesn't really diminish, but the presence on the ground has, therefore customer expectations and managing to fulfil things has become a challenge, notwithstanding any risk assessments and safety of the team on the ground, which is a continual, I wouldn't say a challenge, we've got there, but I think just making sure that things are right, because safety is paramount. We don't want to have to put people at risk. So yeah, it's been very much of a challenge, and being at arm's length has been difficult for some scenarios. We use Teams quite a lot. We're in continual contact with each other via our ITSM service desk and via the mobile phones. So you find yourself continually plugged into something and speaking, whilst also trying to do. So it's been a bit of a challenge. One thing I have noticed is the flexibility, work-life balance, somebody else mentioned, has actually, I'm sounding a bit doom and gloom here, but it's actually been quite good in a way, because the flexibility is far better. So you can find yourself, while my wife's watching EastEnders, getting a bit of time to go and catch up with a report or do various bits of work, and I don't feel so guilty about it. Whereas previously you'd work your working day, and then I found myself skulking about trying to find a corner I could log in to catch up with things. So it's been quite good. The productivity is, now the kids are back, is through the roof, and I think it's been a bit of a challenge. Looking forward to getting back in on it, and I think we'll be more of a blended basis as well going forward. But I think looking forward to being there. There's nothing like being there, I think, for some things, especially for face-to-face and catching up with the team. They've only been pictures on Zoom calls for so long. But yeah, challenging, but also there's good benefits from it, and hopefully we'll take things, the good from this scenario, and move forward with it.
Hey Roy, without revealing commercial secrets, what kind of sector are you working in?
I would say the same as Ali Hunter.
Right, okay, fine.
Okay, so yeah, criminal justice.
Fine. Right. Patrick, is it? Well, hold on. How's it? Right. We're at we're approaching 1:05. We've promised to get the people who are coming to us during lunch back to lunch. Is there anyone else care to make any remarks or summarising anything?
I would just add something I said the last time I think we had a local meeting. I'm quite positive about all that's going on at BCS at the moment, and part of it is to do with this whole response to COVID. I have never had so much visibility of what is going on in BCS in all the decades that I have been a member. And one thing that I really am excited about is the fact that you can see what all the branches are doing, what forthcoming meetings are coming up. And the way I keep up to date with that is through my Eventbrite account. And I would encourage everyone either to keep looking at the BCS website to see what meetings are coming up, or do what I've done, which is use Eventbrite, make sure that you have your own login credential for it, and say like British Computer Society, because that will give you about a couple of messages a week clumped with 4 or 5 different meetings which are going to be coming up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it used to be that people could only join 4 specialist groups. Well, it doesn't matter how many specialist groups you want to keep an eye on these days. You can be aware of what's happening all over Britain, or indeed across the world. So do make use of all the stuff that has been done just now over the internet. It's brilliant. And I hope that we will never go back to doing things quite the same way. I hope this phrase blended is going to be the hallmark for BCS in future.
Thanks, David. And John, Chair, do you care to close off the meeting? And unmute yourself first, perhaps.
Well, yes. Again, my apologies for being a bit late, but I'm very pleased with the number of folk that have turned up, and I think that's a good start. And once we get a bit more, get things up and rolling along, we can spend a bit more time talking with each other. And I was interested to hear what the different people had to say, and like to kind of expand on their experience and bring that to our meetings more as well. So on that note, I'll close. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone who spoke. Thanks everyone who attended. You're very much appreciated. We hope to be in touch. So please keep an eye on your email, the branch website, or in fact Eventbrite. Sorry, Roy, we never actually heard from you. Hello, nice to see you.
Sorry, I'm on my child's laptop just now, so because my other one started to do an update just before the meeting, so the sound and the vision aren't very good on this one.
Yeah. Yes, okay, lovely. Nice to hear from you. Thanks for your contribution, everyone. Thanks, I think we've all learned something today, and thanks for your contributions, and we'll try and run another one soon. Thanks now, I'll close off the meeting. Oh, sorry, Dave, John and Ewan, could you stay on the line just for and DDEM? Just there's nothing here that non-committee members shouldn't be hearing, but we as a committee have to agree to stick with our budget for last year for next year. And I have to confirm to the treasurer at Swindon that the committee is agreeing to go ahead with last year's budget. Last year's budget was pretty much like this year's budget and is equally as unpredictable. But
well, if that's helpful, I will move that we do continue with the same budget.
Whoopee, that's
I'll second it.
Thank you. That lets us keep Swindon on side, and we're done all we need to do. Okay, thanks a lot.